All right, I think we're going to get going. Joining me today, we've got Michael Ryan, who is head of production ops at Midsumma. All right, just making sure I can see my screen there. Beautiful. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is our Midsumma Pride March volunteer brief. We're going to be starting off with a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, we've got about 45 minutes to this brief. We might run through it. It could go to an hour, but 45 minutes to an hour. If you need it, you're most welcome to turn on live captioning down the bottom. You're also able to add your name and your pronouns. Um, I would like to begin with acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. The Midsumma offices are on the land of the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung, and Boonwurrung people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Beautiful. Again, as I said before, we'll hold questions till the end, just so we can get through this presentation as quickly as possible. If you've got anything that is a little bit more sticky, that is not appropriate for this forum, please feel free to send me an email or give me a call. All right, so what are we going to go through in this briefing? We're going to go over key volunteering points for the day. We'll get into Pride March specifics. Then we're going to throw it over to Head of Production Operations, Michael Ryan. He'll give you an overview of the event, key timing, staff, contractors, how to use a radio, some FAQs for the day, a little bit about accessibility and media, safety and risk, and then at the end we'll wrap up with some volunteer roles on the day. Beautiful. All right, so we got some key points. Please arrive on time for your shift. If you're running late or can't make it, please text the volunteer phone. You should hopefully all have that number in your saved to your phone at this point, and if not, it is very handily on your accreditation. Upon arrival, please head to the volunteer or information tent or the volunteer headquarters, which is located up at the St Kilda Sports Club. And the information tent is located at Katani Gardens. So we've got two different locations. You'll have it marked on your shift where you'll be checking in. So you've either got IJO for Ian Johnson Oval, or you've got CG for Katani Gardens. Please just double check on Deputy. If you have any issues, let me know. If you end up in the wrong spot, it's not a big deal. We'll be able to guide you where you need to go. When you check in with one of our volunteers at the check-in desk, you'll get a Midsumma t-shirt if you don't already have it. You'll get an accreditation, a bag, a water bottle if you need it when you sign in. As with all our events, request that you wear closed-toed shoes, no toes showing, please. Please pack lightly. For this event specifically, we do not have any safe storage, which means I cannot allow you to leave any of your personal items at the sports club. This is mainly because we are going to have to pack up the sports club from 12. So everything, please make sure that you can carry it on your person. That's where we give you the volunteer bags, not just for branding purposes. So yes, please don't bring any heavy bags. Keep all your personal items on you. If you're working over 5 hours on the day, you'll get a food voucher that you're able to spend at one of our food trucks down at Katani Gardens. Just a little note on sensitivity for this event. Midsumma engages with a wide range of communities. You're going to kind of come across audiences, artists, contractors who have potentially a little bit of a life difference experience to you. It's really important to be sensitive and respectful in a way that you talk to people. This is including your fellow volunteers. We want Midsumma to be a safe environment for everyone, and that starts with us. If we want any more information apart from what we go through at the end about volunteer roles, the Volunteer Hub is our best friend. Everything that we're going to go through today is on the Volunteer Hub. So that's always going to be your go-to. Skip through. Here is a little bit of a layout of the Pride March. As you see, we've got the marshalling area over at the Ian Johnson Oval. This is where all of the Pride March ways will start. It's right next to the St Kilda Sports Club where all the way participants will be checking in. It's also where we'll have the volunteer check-in. Um, you can see how the march route goes all the way down Fitzroy Street and everyone ends up at Catani Gardens. We've also got mapped out there the accessible viewing location and the accessible march access. There might be some march participants who will need those, so it's good to know where they are and where the road closures will be. Some more key points. Please don't alter your Midsumma t-shirt. I know it's really trendy, but we like to keep them as uniform as possible. If you are approached by any media, please say, I do not comment. Direct all media inquiries to either myself or our marketing team. Lost property gets returned to the volunteer and info tent down in Catani Gardens. And any lost person which is different from lost children, which we'll touch on later, can be taken to the first aid tents. As always, please take care of yourself and your mates. Report any hazards, big or small, including inappropriate behavior, wear closed-toed shoes, as I said before, sunscreen, drink lots of water, look after yourself. In the case of emergency, we've got our Events Operations Center. Always call 000 and radio through to the EOC if you see an emergency. The EOC emergency phone number is also on the back of your accreditation. I highly suggest that you save it to your phone. The forecast for this Sunday is looking a lovely 20 degrees with the possibility of rain. So please bring wet weather gear just in case. It is also in Melbourne, so we could get 4 seasons in one day. So my suggestion, we prepare for everything. I'm now going to throw it over to our head of production operations, Michael Ryan, who's going to take us through some key events points.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you for everyone who came down to Carnival. That was an amazing, beautiful day, albeit a little hot towards the end, but it was an amazing result. So thank you so much if you came and helped us at Carnival. Also, thank you to everyone who's been helping us across the first, I think, 2 weeks now of the festival. It feels like 2 years for us at Midsumma HQ, but it's all been going really well. So thank you for your help so far. So I'm going to give you a briefing on Pride March and the site and the layout and things like that. Hopefully by the end of this, you shouldn't have too many questions. But if you do, just pop it in the chat or we'll have a Q&A at the end, or you can contact Claire at the end as well. So we'll just go to the next slide, please. Um, yeah, firstly, before I move on, the weather. If you're new to Midsumma Pride March, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be the first Pride March in, I think, roughly 5 years. It's not 40 degrees. So I hope as many of you come down and soak it in. 20 degrees is just absolutely incredible. So yeah, thank you for sticking with us if you have been to all of those 40-degree days. Absolutely ridiculous. I think we've earned this one. So this is the site. As Claire mentioned, it's quite a big one. We've got a couple of venues going on, including Ian Johnson Oval on the far right of your screen in the blue in Area 1, all the way down to Catani Gardens where the march ends in Area 5 in the yellow to the left of your screen. So as Claire touched on, we have marshalling at Ian Johnson Oval at the right. We also have the check-in for all participants and all vehicles as well. And then from there, all participants, all about 13,000, will join Fitzroy Street and they will walk down through Area 2, Area 3, Area 4, and into Area 5. These area numbers you don't have to remember at all. That's just how we split up the site for our operations and how we divide up our area wardens as well. So you can see we start at Fitzroy Street. That's Fitzroy Street and Lakeside Drive. We walk all the way down, and towards the end is things like the Prince of Wales Hotel. You might know that one. We turn right onto Ackland Street, where you can see in the green. Then we cross over into Catani Gardens, and there's a bit of a mini carnival-like thing down in Catani Gardens as well. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that just for your awareness, we have a bunch of area wardens. You can see the names here. You won't need to remember these people, but I just wanted to let you know who's on site from a Midsumma perspective. We have about 4 people in the mustering or marshalling, I should say, area at Ian Johnson Oval. Then we have 3 area wardens across the Fitzroy Street, broken up into those 3 areas. And we also have an area warden down in Katani Gardens. In addition to this, we'll have security guards and then a whole bunch of our lovely volunteers on the route as well. So there should be people everywhere in case any assistance is required. The next map shows Ian Johnson Oval and how it will look on the day. So this is this. So those white bars you can see across the oval, they're our waves. And it's a bit hard to see maybe on the screen, but we have waves A, the letter A through to S or R. And each participant group is broken up into one of these waves. So that means they're given a particular time to arrive, and then once they have arrived, they'll stand behind a wave letter and wait for their time to join the route. Our marshalling managers, Linda and Gordo, if you've met them before or done this shift before, they will be assisting a lot of our lovely volunteers to get all of these groups into the correct order. And yeah, be standing behind their respective letter. Us at Midsumma HQ, we've done a lot of work to ensure that groups aren't waiting any more than around about 70 minutes, give or take. It used to be about 2 hours, but we've cut that down quite a bit. Obviously, that could balloon out, say, if we got a few more marches than we anticipated, or we have to pause the march as well. I'll also just quickly mention that we've at Ian Johnson Oval, we have first aid, we have water, toilets, and also where you will sign in the sports club as well. And on the right-hand side, there's also vehicle marshalling that's in Lakeside Drive. Vehicle marshalling refers to any vehicles that also come down in the march. So there could be a fancy convertible car, there could be a fire truck, and there could just be a regular Toyota sedan. Any group can request to have a vehicle, and they will enter, and they've got their own instructions to come in via vehicle marshalling. At the bottom at Fitzroy Street, you can see an accessible marshalling tent. What that means is for anyone in a wheelchair or anyone with accessibility requirements who doesn't want to come onto the oval, they can sit around this tent. We'll have some of you lovely volunteers, some of us Midsumma staff, and when their wave walks past the tent, they will then join in with your assistance. So that's what that means with the accessible marshalling tent. You can also see to the very right is a bit of a highlighted yellow accessible vehicle drop-off. This is just outside our road closure and obviously is only about 50-meter walk or roll to the accessible marshalling tent. So that's on the corner of Fitzroy Street and Lakeside Drive is our accessible vehicle drop-off. The next map is our Katani Gardens map. It's a little bit confusing. This is what we use to build the site. And I know it's a little bit grainy in this application as well. But what I do want to point out is we've changed things up a little bit this year for Katani Gardens. So this is where the march will end. All participants will come down here. You can see by that grayed out bit the march route. Previously, the finish was a bit further back in Katani Gardens. Now we're going to be funneling all participants directly inside Katani Gardens, and there will be a truss archway like there always is, a big truss archway, and on the top of it will say Midsumma Pride March, and that will indicate the end of the march. Usually somewhere around this end, usually in front of this truss archway with the big Midsumma Pride March sign, is where all groups will take a photo to kind of signify the end of their march and kind of celebrate it. We will definitely have a large amount of volunteers in this area just because it becomes a bit busy. Every group wants to take a photo, so we'll need a bunch of people helping with crowd flow to make sure it keeps moving down. We don't want to block up the march. But in Katani Gardens this year, we will have food trucks. We will have a small stage. There will be an info tent that the volunteers will run. A couple of community organizations will have their marquees, and we'll also have toilets and things like that. Just as an FYI for those who have worked in previous years, we will not have a bar this year. We are suggesting that attendees who would like to drink go out to one of the many incredible after parties we have around St. Kilda. If you stay until like 3:34 p.m., if you are completing a shift that late, you'll see what I mean. This entire area comes alive with amazing after parties absolutely everywhere. So that is Katani Gardens at the end of the route. So as I mentioned, we have about 12,000 participants in 19 waves. You can see on the screen here. So that's quite a lot of people. We'll also have up to 40,000 people on the side of the street watching. The next slide shows what St Kilda Sports Club will look like because it's probably a bit hard to explain. It's a bowls club, a lawn bowls club. If you walk in the Lawn Bowls Club, you can see inside here, this is the check-in desk. We'll have a huge amount of volunteers working here. And this is where all participants will come in to get their wristbands. And also all staff, or most staff and most volunteers will also sign on. So have a look out for that. The next slide is the marshalling summary. So in Johnson Oval, like I just showed you, that's where all people on foot will assemble. I showed you on Lakeside Drive where all vehicles will assemble. And just for clarity, we also have motorbikes which assemble near Katani Gardens on Ackland Street. For those who haven't been to a Pride March before, we are identical to Mardi Gras in Sydney, where we have the Dykes on Bikes and Melbourne Motorcycle Tourers open our march. What that means is they will take off their helmet, they will check it in at our info desk at Katani Gardens because they're legally allowed to ride without a helmet, and they will start at the end of the route. They will go up and come back, revving their engines, getting people nice and loud, and that will signify the start of the march. So that's just a piece of tradition that has always happened, and so we'll continue that. A couple of FAQs for you. On the next slide, the route takes approximately 20 or so minutes to complete. Could be a bit quicker, could be a bit more, but around about 20 minutes to complete. Usually it's a 40-degree day, as I mentioned, and we try to get people through as quickly as possible. But this year that is not an issue. So that is just amazing for us. This year, the march starts at 10:30 a.m. It's a little earlier in previous years. And ends at roughly about 2 p.m. Could be a bit earlier or later. Are always a bit unsure how long it will take just because we don't know exactly how many people will show up to march. Um, at the end of the march, so when we get to wave S, I think it is, Midsumma will march. And that means all of you volunteers, we will all get together and all Midsumma staff will get together. We have a big banner, it says Midsumma Festival, and we will walk down with that banner and we will celebrate it. That will be the end of the march. And we also invite all public to join us as well. And that signifies the end. For this event, we closed down a whole heaps of roads and tram lines and things like that. So public transport is absolutely your best bet. St Kilda isn't the easiest place to get to, as I'm sure we're all aware. So we definitely recommend utilizing trams. There'll be additional trams running to allow for crowds to get down there. Drop off points will be pretty much at the start and the end of the route. So the start is Fitzroy Street and Lakeside Drive up towards the city. The end is Katani Gardens. We're talking Beaconsfield Parade around there. Just allow some extra time wherever you're going. There will be a lot of road closures in place. There will be a lot of people. It's a busy area on this day. I spoke about the accessible marshalling point already. Toilets, I pointed out at Ian Johnson Oval and Katani Gardens. We do not have toilets throughout the march route. And also we do have lost property at Katani Gardens in the volunteer tent. As Claire already mentioned, we do not have any storage, unfortunately. The reason for that is all the venues we utilize turn into incredible after parties after the march. So we actually get kicked out ourselves from around midday. So yeah, that's why we say not to bring anything too heavy. And it's also worth noting that we're right next to the ocean, or the bay, I should say. And because of that, City of Port Phillip, the council this event operates in, tells us strictly to not have any balloons, confetti, or glitter, which I know is a bit sad, but it's just because all wastewater will go out to the bay. That is about it for that slide. The next slide is key timings on the day, just to quickly run through them. You lucky ducks won't have to start at 5 a.m. like some of us, including myself and Claire. But from about 7 a.m. is when we'll get some volunteers in to start kicking off work. And from 8:30 a.m., our all-important wave marshal volunteers will get a briefing on what to do for the day. Fitzroy Street closes at 8 a.m. to help us prepare for the day. And from 10 a.m., Beaconsfield Parade also closes. As I mentioned, the march begins at 10:30 a.m. And that is about that. Katana Gardens goes until about 3:34 p.m. once people have settled well after the march. The next slide just shows some of the companies we have on site, just for you to be aware of. These are the companies that help us. Most of them are identical to Carnival. So moving on to two-way radios. Thanks to all who were brave enough to pick up a radio at Carnival. I'm just going to talk once again how best to use them. So we have about 30 to 40 radios that we're going to give to our volunteers. So this is how we communicate with each other at an event. And the reason why we use two-way radios is mobile phones are not reliable at large-scale events. If you were at Carnival, you would have noticed around about 4 p.m., 5 p.m., phone reception conked out. It wasn't really possible to send messages or they were heavily delayed. So that's why we use two-way radios. You'll all be on a channel that is for volunteers. And I just want to make sure that we're very clear that if you are given a radio, we do expect you to be listening to it. If you need to make a radio call, we expect you, for example, if you need something on the radio, you would press the button, you would wait about a second for the radio to connect, it makes a little noise like a boop boop, and then you will then say who you are. We do not know who you are. So for example, if you are a volunteer making a call to Claire, you would press the button, you'd wait a second, you would say volunteer to Claire. Claire would then say,
Go for Claire.
and then I would press the button once again, wait a second for the little beep beep to happen. And I could say something like, oh, Claire, I need more wristbands down here. There's a bin down here that needs fixing, or I need some assistance at this location. Claire would then respond with,
Copy that.
nice. And so we need to do those backwards and forths calls because we never know if the other person has heard each other. So we always need to follow up when we've made a radio call. So please, if you are going to make a radio call, and we definitely suggest that you do if you need assistance or have a question, please make sure you follow up. Poor Claire, if a volunteer makes a radio call and Claire tries to get back in touch with them or maybe didn't hear them, Claire is going to keep on trying until we've heard back from that radio call. So please just make sure you on the radio go back to Claire saying, apologies, I did not hear that, or copy that, or that's correct. Something like that to indicate that you have been heard correctly. So, moving on to the next slide, just as an FYI, your radio calls are public. You will all have radio channels on your accreditation when you come down to site, and some codes as well. You will stay on your volunteer channel. Don't worry about these ones. These are for our next event, Victoria's Pride, but they're just an example. At any time on the radio, you can call Claire if you need assistance, or you can call the Event Operations Center, or EOC. If you forget that acronym, that's fine. Just ask for help on the radio. And as I mentioned, you must always be available for two-way radios. So for example, at some point, Claire might ask for assistance and say, Claire to wave a marshal or something like that. So make sure you're listening in case we need your assistance. The next slide is just talking about if you do need assistance, especially at this event. It's a really long, large event. Before you call it in, have a little think about where you are. So if you are on Fitzroy Street, it's not really easy for us to hear Fitzroy Street. Have a look around. It could be a shop front. The Victorian Pride Centre is on Fitzroy Street. That's a good one. It could be a pub. It could be an address. It could also be a crossroad. So there's Canterbury Road and Fitzroy Street. You could say you're on the corner of that. So before you call in, just have a think about where you are. Obviously, Ian Johnson Oval, Katani Gardens. Have a little think, have a little look around about where you are before you use the radio. If your call is urgent, feel free to just jump in and get as much information across as possible. So just some FAQs as we move on. We will ask you to wear your lovely black Midsumma tee. We're getting towards the end of the festival, so we got to get as many wears out of them as possible. Um, Wild to say this, but please bring clothing for wet weather. Who would have ever thunk it, especially after last year? It says it's going to rain. It might be very light. Honestly, for myself, I'm not going to be worrying too much about it, but I will have a rain jacket on me just in case. Could be quite a nice little refreshing wake up. Um, if we pop you on the parade route, we will give most likely you a high vis vest. That's just for safety and visibility. So if we do give one to you, please pop it on. For those lovely volleys who joined us on site for Carnival for bump in and bump out, pre and post event, you will be well aware that we require you to wear high vis. As an FYI, excuse me, should extreme weather be forecast or occur, we will manage it. There's no need to ask questions. We'll be well aware of it. And also, I want to get clear that if you witness something or identify a hazard or a risk, it is our expectation that you will make us aware of that. If you have a radio, you can call that in or call Claire. If you don't, you can call the number to call Claire and let us know. So we definitely expect you to call that in. As opposed to Carnival, this is not a BYO alcohol event. There will be some people drinking in the streets. We do have a lot of bars and restaurants. It's not something that really isn't an issue with this event, but just letting you know this is not a BYO alcohol event. The next slide shows protest activity. So Midsummer Pride March, we definitely are likely to get a couple of protests at Midsummer Pride March. The absolute vast majority of protests at Pride March are friendly and quite nice and can be quite fun. But we definitely want to be aware if you see a group of protesters gathering. We just want to be across what's happening on our march route to make sure everything's safe. So if you do see a bunch of people gathering, maybe they've all wearing the same colored tee, they've got signs, they've got flags or something like that, that doesn't look totally correct in the context of this event. Make us aware. Um, and for almost all protests, we actually just ask them to join the back of the march effectively. So we're happy to allow all protests as long as they're peaceful. We're happy to allow them to jump in. If a protest does happen and you need assistance, Midsummer staff, including myself, we have security and also Victoria Police and our area wardens. We will manage that one on your behalf. But do let us know if you see something out of the ordinary and we'll come and check it out. Just moving on to lost and found children is the next slide. Um, we don't have too many of these at Midsummer Pride March, but I do want to talk about what to do. Effectively, we can either lose a child or find a child. A child. I'm losing my words. So for a lost child is where a parent or a guardian or someone has approached you saying they've lost their child. In that incident, you would 100% stay with the parent until the incident is resolved. That parent might be running around, they might be a bit frantic, they obviously might be a bit upset, but we need to know that that incident is over. So stay with the parent. If you find a child that does not have a parent, so little Jimmy on the street who's 4 years old, you will stay in position and you will not move. For both of these incidents, regardless, you will call for assistance, whether that's on your phone to Claire or whether that's through your radio two-way. For both of these incidents, once you've called it through on your phone or radio, we will come and assist you. You do not need to remember much because we will give you instructions about what to do next, but that's just a brief overview of those two incidents. For accessibility at this event, we have the lovely Josh once again, who works with us in Midsummer. He's our accessibility coordinator, and this is his phone number. What that means is if you get any accessible questions or need assistance, you can call this number and Josh and his team of lovely volunteers, who may be some of you, will come and help on the day. As I mentioned, there is an accessible drop-off area. Halfway down, or maybe two-thirds down the route, there is a tram stop a bit further down from the Pride March, almost at the Prince of Wales pub or bar. There is a tram stop in the middle of the road. That is our accessible viewing area, which you'll see on the day. I've spoken about the accessible marshalling area that's at Ian Johnson Oval. It was that marquee on the route. And also, it's worth knowing that the Pride Center, which is about halfway down the route, will have a soothing space open. What that means is you can pop in there, you can watch a live stream of the march, you can get some air conditioning, you can get some quiet. So if anyone needs any form of calming down or just to chill out, you can send them to the Pride Center. That is it for me. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. Thank you for all your help so far. Pride March is something we physically cannot do without our volunteers. We use so many volunteers for this event. So yeah, a big shout out to those who are coming back, especially from last year in that 40-degree heat. You're all heroes. And thanks so much to our newbies this year as well. I'm excited to see you on site. Claire.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. All right. We're just going to go through volunteer roles. As I said before, if you're ever confused about what your role is on the day, don't worry. We will brief you at the beginning of every shift. So we've got this briefing. The information is also available on the volunteer hub and also on the day. If you have any questions about what you're meant to be doing, there's plenty of staff around to help you. Um, First role is the wave marshal managers and the wave marshal assistant roles. Your role is to organize each of the wave that you are assigned and make sure that they're ready to take off. You're essentially escorting them down the Pride route. You'll be given a wave folder, which is basically a ring binder that has a directory of everyone who's in your wave. If you're a manager, you'll be on the radio. It's really important that you listen to calls from your manager, Linda. Linda will give you a briefing at the beginning of the shift, and she will be who you are reporting to. Together with your team of wave marshals, you will walk your wave from start to finish. Depending on our numbers, some marshals will have to come back up to walk another wave down. If you're a vehicle marshal, you will be assisting the vehicle marshal manager to organize vehicles who are in the march. If you are an audience marshal, you will rove along Fitzroy Street looking after audience, answering patron questions, moving them off the road. So you're almost like a bit of a safety angel in that kind of way. If you're an accessible marshal, as in Johnson Oval isn't very accessible. Anyone who, for example, uses the wheelchair, they can sign in at the accessible march tent. So you guys will be positioned there. You'll have a little bit of shade. You'll be assisting participants in getting in and onto the road and to join the march with their group. We've also got the accessible viewing area, which is about halfway down Fitzroy Street at the tram stop. So together with Josh, who's our Access Festival coordinator, you'll help patrons with accessibility requirements around the festival and make sure that they're enjoying themselves at the accessible viewing area. If you're at the participant check-in, you'll be at the St Kilda Sports Club with the rest of us, checking in all of the people who are participants in the march and making sure that they've all got their wristbands for their waves. As we mentioned before, there's two volunteer sign-in locations. The volunteer headquarters is located at the St Kilda Sports Club at Ian Johnson Oval. We'll have to pack that up at 12 p.m. and after that we will all move down to Catani Gardens. The volunteer/slash information tent is located at Catani Gardens. So that tent will act as both an information tent for public and also if your shift is starting down at Catani Gardens, that's where you'll be signing in. If you're coming in as site crew for Bump In and Bump Out, which will be starting from tomorrow and Saturday, you'll be assisting our site managers with everything that has to do with packing down the festival. This happens both up at Ian Johnson Oval and Catani Gardens. You will most likely be helping out the famous Signage Alan on the day, if you've had the pleasure of working with Signage Alan before. If you are on the welcome team or you're a survey superstar, you'll be roving around. Your main task is to welcome patrons to the post-Pride March party down at Catani Gardens. You also might be asking people to complete surveys and collecting donations via our signage. So we're not taking any cash donations this year. It's all via tap. We'll walk you through it on the day. Surveys are really important for the festival. It helps us collect data, which then we send through to the government. It also helps us make our events better. So that's why we've always got people taking surveys at our events. We've also got the merchandise tent. Some of you will be bumping it in, some of you will be staffing it. That will be down at the Ian Johnson Oval, where anyone can purchase Midsumma merchandise. Lots of people just like to have a flag to wave around while participating or even watching the march. If you're an end of March marshal, your job is to help the crowd disperse down at Katani Gardens. As it's where the march ends, everyone tends to want to clump together. They want to see their friends and family. They want to continue the party. Your job is to basically encourage people to move through the space, answer any questions, send people to the information tent if they need to pick up anything there. But your job is mainly to keep the party going. All right, I think that brings us to the end. I'm just going to have a look at our Q&A and see if we've got any questions that have come through. Um, so we've got a question from Evelyn. Is the gathering in Fitzroy Street? Yes. So the Pride March route goes down Fitzroy Street. The location is within St Kilda, so we're starting up at Ian Johnson Oval and then we're finishing down at Katani Gardens. Beautiful. Do we have any other questions? Okay, we'll just check in the chat. I think if we don't have any other questions, that's it for today. Um, thank you so much for coming to our briefing. I really appreciate it. This will be made available on the volunteer hub if you want to go back to it later. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to send me an email. Hopefully, you know my email address by this point. Double check your deputy to see what shifts you're assigned to, what your start and finish times are, and also where you'll be signing in. And you can always reach me on the volunteer hotline. All right. Um, I think we'll end it for today. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a lovely night.